Good day, everyone. So, one thing that keeps coming up, and it's come up for decades, okay? Nice little morning waking up with foofy hair. One of the thoughts that puff into my head and arguments that I see, and it hasn't been super bad recently, at least as far as I know, but it was kind of annoying when I went to the restaurant the other day. I went to pick up some Chinese food, and I had ordered on the phone. I show up, they even have a drive-through. I go to the drive-through, I pay for my food. They hand me the little machine, okay? And you put your card in the machine and you do your little number thingy, and it says, okay, how much tip do you want to provide? And it starts off with 15, 20, 30%. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, okay, no tip. Now here's the thing, there's two parts of that. First, I'm at a drive-through window, I'm picking up food. There's no service, there's no anything going on. Okay? There's no reason for a tip. Alright? All you're doing is handing me a box out the damn window. Okay? That's it. There's no tip. Number two, if I walk into a sit-down restaurant and I sit down to eat, and you hand me some little thing that has a default choice of tip that doesn't include the 10%, it's no tip. It's no tip. I don't care how amazing you were. The arrogance and the hubris of sitting there and not having 10% on there is a huge kicker for me. Okay? I usually tip pretty good. Okay? I do. But here's the thing. Sitting there and trying to change the percentage and demanding it is just absolutely ridiculous on the level of narcissism in the world. And the reason for this is because where that rule came from. All right? In my previous video I talked about, we make laws that say you don't kill people, but then we have these little rules that we do that we kind of follow. We have society's rules, and you guys are all about breaking society's rules, and you don't care about why that rule was there. Okay? So let me explain to you the history of the 10% tip and why it's 10%. Okay? When you go get a job, you negotiate your salary with your boss. Okay? It's kind of like the stock market. Okay? When you invest in the stock market, they have what's called high-risk stocks. They have medium-risk stocks, and they have low-risk stocks. If you're sitting there and doing, mutual funds, and you're doing all kinds of stuff, they give you these things, and your brokers will do this stuff, and they talk about this, and the reason being is that the high risk, big chance you're going to get like 20% return, you're going to get huge money back, okay? But the chances that you're just going to lose it all go way up. Medium risk, you're not going to get the 20. You might get, 12 to 15. Low risk, you're getting 5 to 7. Okay? Low risk, you're not very likely for your money to just disappear completely. You're investing in things that have this very steady, slow growth over the long run. There might be a little bit of a bump in there, but that's it. Jobs are the same way. All right? And jobs are also based on skill set. All right? So one of the most coveted things to have is the salary. That is the low risk thing. They sit there and they say, look, we're going to pay you X amount of money every month, okay, or year, and we divide it up into the paychecks, okay. Now, that money is going to include whatever benefits that you negotiate, things like health care, 401k matching, all kinds of different stuff. Doesn't include dental, doesn't include this. That's all great. Now, Typically, you're going to find that kind of work for corporations when you're doing mostly the high and middle. You can find it with the low skill, okay? High skill, medium skill, low skill. High skill jobs, okay? Yes, I'm using terms that we've used for a million years, and this is kind of the same stuff they used in Congress forever and ever and ever when we talk about the economy, okay? High skilled jobs. You're a doctor, you're a lawyer. You had to go to school for at least 4 to almost 8 years sometimes to be considered high skill. You're the architect who draws up plans and works out all of the things and deals with wind resistance on skyscrapers. This is high skill type stuff. You had to go and really study this stuff, okay, to be able to do this. All right. Medium skill work, okay. These are people who require a license, people who are required to do a number of different things, who have to memorize all kinds of laws, have to keep up with the laws, have to keep up with changing standards, have to do this. You've got a plumber. Plumbers are medium skill. All right. These are people who go in, you start off as an apprentice. It's like the trades. You know, you start off and you've got to be able as a plumber to sit there and go into every unique situation, every unique building, and sit there and go, okay, I'm allowed to have X amount of feet of exhaust pipe. I can only have this. I got this. I've got to do the P-catch. I got to do this. Nope, we're not doing those no more. We're not doing P-traps anymore. We're doing this thing over here, and it's got to do this. You got to have a building inspector come in and tell you that you screwed the whole thing up. You've got the electrician coming out. He's doing his work, and they go, well, you've got this much on one breaker, and you've got that. You did that. No, can't do that. These are medium skilled jobs. And then you have low skilled jobs. And this is going to piss off all the tippy people because guess what? You're low skill. For the most part, you're low skill workers. Okay? And yes, some of these people have to go through some levels of training. Some of these people have to go through on-the-job training and so forth, but it's not some intensive year-long, 2-year-long program to do training to do this work. Okay? You're not under heavy regulations and constant checking to make sure that your work is done correctly. Okay? I heard from a bunch of servers who were like, do you know how much I have to memorize and how much I have to run around the thing? That's a lot. That's hard work. That's it. And I'm like, yeah, it's hard work. It's not high skill. Okay? I can dig ditches. That's hard work. You stick a shovel in the ground, you pick up really big heavy weighted dirt, you carry it over here, you dump. That's hard work. You sweat your butt off doing that stuff. You could sit there and go crazy doing that stuff because it's so hard. You break your back. But guess what? It's still low skill. Anybody can do it with just a little bit of training. That's all it is. And if that hurts your feelings, I'm sorry, tough crap. That's life. Okay? Welcome to reality. Now, in the low skill work area, okay, we have two types of ways of doing your check. We have, for employers, they can do what's called the hourly wage. Okay? And we put a minimum on that. We said, it's minimum wage. That's minimum. That means you're hiring the person, they got no experience, they got nothing, they're just starting out, they're whatever. You're not looking for the high experience person. You don't need somebody who's been serving for X amount of years. Okay? You don't need you're just like, dude, I will train you to do the job and you just go out there and do the food. And if the person leaves, that's fine. I just bring another person in for that pay and I can do it. And I'm willing to take on the burden of having the turnover rate of that. Okay, to have these people in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay you minimum wage. Okay, it's not a living wage. Okay, it's a surviving wage. That's what minimum wage is. It's surviving wage. And at the federal level, the surviving wage is whatever is the cheapest amount out there. So if you live in LA, it doesn't make sense. But in BFE, you know, Oklahoma, in the middle of nowhere, out on the prairie somewhere, guess what? You don't need that much, okay? That's the minimum. That's the minimum, okay? Which is why your local and states have the ability to regulate that amount as higher, okay, based on the economy of that local area, okay? Now, the hourly wage, you get paid by the hour. And what you're banking on is that you're going to get 40 hours a week, all right? Now, if you go above that, ooh, you get time and a half. That starts raking in money, but you're taking in the chance that maybe this week you're only going to get 36 hours. Next week you might get 60. Ooh, we're picking up business. You're, in a way, okay, betting your check on the economy by taking jobs that are very heavy dependent on the economy, like things like McDonald's. People eat at McDonald's a lot less when the economy's down and they don't have all the disposable funds. All right, but when the economy starts getting better, they start doing more, and you start picking up a lot more hours, and you start picking up a lot of overtime, you start making out. All right. Now, if you don't want to worry about your thing going up and you want a steady 40 hours a week, you can go get a job as a secretary or a personal assistant or something for some small company, or you work the counter at the local, you know, the local 7-Eleven or something, and you know that you're going to get these hours all the time. That's great. All right. Then you have the tip workers. Now, originally, we didn't put a minimum wage in for tip workers. The idea was your paycheck came from your ability to sell your smile, your ability to make the customer happy and do these things. And you were betting on the gratuity. Remember what that is? You know what gratuity means? It means giving something away to be nice. Okay? It's a nicety. You're betting on the nicety of these people. Okay? In the real world, we owe you nothing. We owe you absolutely nothing. We're being nice, giving you any tip at all, ever. Okay? Now, that gets really kind of crazy because the people who are like, look, we worry about everybody. We don't want people going hungry because they sit there and they go and they work and they serve these people and they don't get any tips at all, and now they go home and they've got nothing. That's not good. There's also when things are going great and these people are raking in tons and tons and tons and tons of tips, and they're not paying any taxes on them. They're not reporting them. I mean, we don't even have them listed as working because, they're just working for tips. So we put the minimum wage in, okay, to do a number of different things. One was to make it available so that you had a payment system from an employer who could then provide you benefits. And so the costs of the benefits on your side would come out of that. Your taxes could come out of that portion, and you would still be left with all your tips. All of those things. So when you see these little videos and all these little people, it's like, I worked 80 hours this week and my paycheck was $7.38. It's like, yeah. And look at that. There's Social Security, there's tax payment, there's, health care, there's, oh, you got dental too. It's like, that's what that's for. Okay. On the tax side, it was also to make sure that the IRS could track you. Because we all know that you lie about those tips. You sit there and you pull in all these tips. You don't report them all. And with today mostly going credit card, that's why they're doing it. Because they can track your tips better and they can tax you. That's why the government's really big on trying to get rid of, the dollar and the change currency. Because when people pay cash and they do the cash tip, guess what? We know darn well that is not getting reported. The only time it's getting reported is when it shows up on the machine when you click that little tip thing. Yeah, when it's on the receipts. which the business has to turn in and do their little thing. Okay, so that's one of the reasons they did that. All right, so at that point, it's like, okay, well, you're getting your health care, you're getting this, you're paying your fair share in taxes, you're doing this, we're working it, we're getting better. Okay, now here's the thing. When we provide a tip, we came up with this unspoken rule. This is one of those unspoken rules of society, kind of like we sit there and say, you know, you're not supposed to get married, you know, have sex until you get married. That's an unspoken rule. It's kind of a guideline, just like the tip is kind of a guideline. You'll tip 15, 20, and 30%. You have a great night and this person does a great job. You love the crap out of their smile. You give them great tips, okay? And so during times of when the economy is crappy, okay, society said, look, we know people aren't going out to the restaurant as often. We know that when they do, they're not going to tip as high because, well, they're not, you know, loaded with tons of money. When the economy's doing good, people are throwing them tips around. They're spreading the wealth, you know. But when the economy's down, people are like, they get closer to being in survival mode. And so when you're doing that, we as a society came up and said, okay, 10%. We need to make sure that these people don't drop to zero. They're doing a high risk thing with their paycheck, all right? They're not the rich people who invest in the high risk stocks. These are low income people, okay? Lower income people, not necessarily super low income people, but lower income people than the people who normally do the high risk stocks. But they're doing that with their paycheck. So to make sure that you don't bottom out and, you know, lose it all when the economy goes to crap and nobody's tipping and you go home after 40 hours a week working with zero tips and not even, you know, any kind of hourly wage, yeah, you know, everybody goes, okay, society rule, we're going to tip 10%. Now I want you to think about that for a second, and people sit there and go, oh, that's nothing. And it's like, you know what? Don't tell me it's nothing. All right? Denny's, Applebee's, whatever diner that you go to with a low cost food that you just go in, you're going to do the quick lunch thing or the dinner thing, and it's just a great way to get some food real quick and go. And you got a server who may or may not be that great. That server has at least 6 tables. 6. Some people will, you know, they've got the counter and they do that one, or they've got the counter and tables. And so you're dealing with at least 6 tables an hour, I would say. Is easy to sit there and say, and usually a lot more than that. Oh, it's so hard to deal with so much. Yeah, you take an order, you go over there, you give it, and then you come back. Why do you think they have so much time to ask you how you're doing and to bring you more water? You know, it's because it doesn't take all that time. And trust me, shoveling dirt, you don't get like a break every 2 minutes to stop, okay? So you're getting at least, I would say, 6 tables. 6 tables, I heard, you know, the complaint at one point, they were like, you know, it's 30 bucks, you know, couple comes in, they get 30 bucks worth of food. Okay, you know, like a couple of $10 things, some drinks and some other stuff, whatever, 30 bucks worth of food. Inflation's driving that up. I know, but we're just going to use it. 30 bucks for the meal. 10% on that is $3. Seems so petty, $3. Oh, and that's a horrible tip, except for you got 6 tables and that's 18 bucks. And when you're dealing with a lunchtime crowd, you're usually turning that over in about every 30 minutes. But even if it was for an hour, $18 an hour. That's your minimum. That's your set part where we sit there and say, look, we're going to make sure that you still get paid. And we're trying to make sure that you're getting paid 18 bucks an hour. This was before, when I was looking at the numbers and I was, you know, I did this conversation with somebody. It was $15 an hour is what they were screaming for. I'm like, you're making $18 an hour plus whatever you get from the employer, and the employer part pays for all of your damn health care and everything else. You don't have that cost coming out of your tips, and you want to complain about that. So now the economy starts tanking. Now, I never see the servers all complaining, and you'll see this over and over and over throughout history. And when the economy is great and servers are making $80 an hour in tips, trust me, you go talk to them bartenders out there, and they're in some hopped up place. Oh my God, they make the tips. Okay, seriously, $80, $100 an hour, that's not unheard of at all. Okay. You're making $80 an hour and all you do is you just bring some drinks to somebody? Come on. You know? But guess what? That's what happens when the economy is great. When the economy goes to crap, oh, that's when we start hearing all the complaints. You got used to that cushy part, and now you're going to complain that you're only getting 10%, and the 10% is $18 an hour. You made that choice. You made that bet with your paycheck, and now it's in the low part. It's going to come back up, always does. Guess what? You're only complaining when it dips down. Don't make the deal, okay? It's like some guy who goes into contracting, and he's getting paid, huge amounts of money to be a contractor, okay? You're not getting paid a salary wage. You're making 3-4 times as much as the full-time employees on salary make, but then you end up unemployed for 6 months. Well, you still made 4 times as much as the salary guy did for a year. You worked for 3 months. You've got a year's worth of money out of that. You can be unemployed for 9 months without a problem, but, oh no, I got used to spending all the money all at once and it's gone and now I have nothing and no job. You knew you were betting your paycheck on consulting work. You knew that when the economy drops that consulting jobs are going to be harder to get, and you don't pick it. It's the old story about the damn ants and the grasshopper not saving for the rainy day stuff. It's bull. It's absolutely bull. So when I hear these kids coming out and start complaining about this stuff, or I hear all kinds of people coming out and complaining about, oh, the tip needs to be 15, 20, it should be 30%. If you're not tipping 30%, you're a dog. And then all the names come out. You're a horrible person. You know what? No. The fact that you're getting a tip at all means I'm not a horrible person. Giving you 10% is me making sure that you're not going to die. That's it. I'm saving your freaking life. And you don't want, oh, fine. You're going to be a jerk. Then how am I supposed to have any desire to help you at all? If I don't see 10% on the default little piece that says for tipping, I'm not going to look at the 15, 20, and 30. I'm going to hit no tip every single time. You need to start being thankful for gratuity. You need to stop demonizing people who do the best they can to be nice to you. That's the early morning thoughts with the foofy hair.